We talked about thinking, getting people to think, using stories, laughter to get people to think, looking at the impact of culture, families, teachers, etc. Just let's move on one step further. And this is where Adam Grant says, let's rethink, let's revisit. So, what are the best practices in the education system that you think we need to revisit?
I think most importantly, the first thing, I'm looking at the education blueprint 2013 and 2025. We have only 2 more years to actually, supposed to be to achieve whatever that we have put there. That is actually one document, Harith. It's a blueprint.
With a start and end date.
Yes, but
Yeah,
it is
2015 to 2025.
2025. But actually, it's one of, actually, I was involved in the initial stage. It was one of the best documents that we have, but the delivery has not been done in a
The
way.
execution.
Yeah, in a way that children could benefit from it. So now, I would just, to me, that I look at it this way: allow us to make mistakes. We can make mistakes, but we can always say, it is okay for me to make mistakes. But if I'm going to learn from the mistake that I make, if we tell the children, it is okay, you leverage on it, and then you actually take the strength of your mistake and your thinking. And teachers should be doing the same thing. But I think, most importantly, the Ministry of Education will have to leapfrog in doing things together with the private sectors, with the stakeholders. You cannot embrace education system on your own. You need to have views from you, from Harith, for example, from any one of us, whereby that you get input from them. How do we go about achieving our aspiration? You have 2 systems, that is students' aspiration and system aspiration. How do we do it the next 2 years? Because it has not been achieved. I can tell you that, not even 80%.
I think your scores were supposed to improve, right? Your scores in comparison with our neighbors. Has that improved now?
It has improved very little, but I think most importantly, we must look at the education system overall, not just one person. That's why I keep telling you need to have someone that the leader of the education system, whereby they can see from the top, helicopter view, not doing things or micromanaging.
So, Dato, you talked about happy schools, and I think Harith said, well, can you let me know? I would like to go, And I remember that I went to New Delhi just to visit a school, which was a private school. And all I did was primarily did whatever Harith did. And many, many years ago, in one of his comedy skits, he had this very famous little piece, which I remembered. This Bollywood hero will come and fight for 20 minutes. I don't know whether you remember this. And then he will dance for 10 minutes. And at the end of it, the hairstyle will be still intact and the shirt will be without crease. You remember that? Yeah. And wow, the kids, I put in a little bit smattering of Hindi and they just loved it. And towards the end of it, they said, oh, I hope, sir, you won't be going away so soon and be staying with me here. So I spent about a week and I enjoyed it. They enjoyed it. But I think to me, in the connotation is, learning happens when they're very happy. So how do we get to that? How can we revisit?
Tan Sri, I'm so glad that you asked me that question. For the last 4 years, from 2018, I've been involved in doing this type of happiness in school, but with a small group. What we call it as I Can Challenge. And we have been doing it in the rural area, the B40 schools, not those in town. And we allow them, we empower teachers and students to come up with ideas whereby it is totally connected to the environment. So what they did, they come up with some creative way of probably what do we do with the vegetables, the wastage. And we brought about 60 students to Rome to compete with the rest of them. And we looked for sponsors, and I was there, and the Pope actually did the closing of it, and our students did so well. And these are from where? Kelantan, Terengganu. And now, our ambassador, she is in UiTM, becoming a lawyer. The way that she speaks and coming up with her ideas is just amazing. So what we want to do, Tan Sri, what I want to do before I leave this world, so that we can actually spread out this type of thinking. And it has been proven, so that our country can have children that way.
So in other words, what you're saying is let's rethink the way...
The way education system is doing, it's not just, giving them lesson, digitating, let them have examination. No, they can create a lot of things. Tan Sri, the Be the Change that we just had recently, and our kids, these are from the B40, Harith. They are poor children, but the way they speak English.
And that's why I think Adam Grant says we always like to be in the comfort of conviction rather than in the discomfort of doubt.
No, the mindset, Tan Sri, the mindset of the leaders within the ministry, they need to change. You can't own the education system on your own. You have to allow other people who have the knowledge to share with you, to work with you. Public-private partnership is one of the best way of doing things. Invite probably Harith to come and do some lectures or what, not even lectures, activities together, interact. So the kids will be very happy.
So how do you actually you kind of entertain and you want to make Malaysians laugh, you say all the time. So whenever that happens, do you feel that you are moving the bar higher in terms of getting people to kind of change a little bit, accept comedy in the way it is, The last one I came by, I heard Rizal Van Gazel and yourself. I think Rizal, for a moment, I saw him kind of laid back a little bit, being more careful because of his experiences. But you came across very strong, trying to rethink, asking the audience to rethink what comedy is. So what would your experiences be whenever you have such situations?
Okay, so in a nutshell, it's actually quite simple. Especially during the pandemic, I moved into my own small talk show, What's Going On in Malaysia, and I spoke to a lot of politicians and people of note. And it gained a strong following, and I've met a lot of people in the streets who've told me they've enjoyed, because I've been able to consciously use my personality and my skills to bring comedy whilst talking about potentially, inverted commas, serious topics. And why that works and why people listen is because that is actually the secret of comedy. Comedy is actually a release. We go through life with many stresses, and job, money, finance, children, whatnot, and these are all weights. Comedy is actually used when you laugh. What you're actually doing is you're releasing endorphins, and that helps with handling the seriousness of life, which is why comedy is desperately important throughout the ages, all the way back down to probably the caveman times, because it is not just to laugh. There is a purpose for laughter. There is a purpose. So if you've been watching my comedy long enough, you will realize that I will make inverted commas jokes about immigration or the government or whatnot, and you go, yeah, I guess. Now, if you set it straight, this is the problem with immigration, then you'll be turned to a heated debate or an argument, why you say that, who is. But when you put it in comedy, people laugh and go. The best part about comedy is when people laughing. The reason people laugh is because they go, I recognize that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I see what he's doing there. Yeah, it also happened to me. Like, yeah. But you may actually be upset in the real moment of it actually happening. But when it's told in comedy, you'll laugh. I'll just end up with a very quick description of why that is. What is the oldest classic joke in the world? Black and white films, man walks along, slips on a banana, don't fall. We laugh. It traditionally is, ha ha ha, the prank fall. But if you take away the context, it is a person slipping, falling, potentially hurting themselves, potentially disabling themselves. So the actual action is a serious matter. We deal with it with laughter, and that is comedy. So when people say, well, why you make jokes to bring down people? No, it's not bringing down. I'm dealing with it. I'm rethinking. I'm having you to go, you know what? Yeah, we're not. That's what we do. And I mean, sorry, I'm going on too long here. Very quick example. I have a joke about Malaysian immigration. It's an old joke. I uploaded it, comparing Malaysian immigration to Singapore immigration. Singapore immigration has 24 counters open, 24 counters, and all the counters are open. Malaysian immigration has 24 counters, 2 counters open. Ha ha ha! But I put it in the sense that Singapore is so unfriendly, they don't want us to hang around and look at the airport. They want you to get out of the airport. Malaysia were friendly. Come look at the airport, line up. I posted it up. Everybody laughs. It's, yeah, everybody goes, yeah. The chief of immigration reposted with a comment saying that's a little bit unfair. Or, you know. Now, when he did that, then everybody jumps on it. 50% were people who were like, yeah, Harith, how can you talk bad about Malaysian immigration? 50% were going, no, it's true. I waited 2 hours, uploading videos of waiting in line and all. And a discussion started. But one friend pointed out to me, he said, Harith, you go to immigration now, all the counters are open. Not saying that I caused it, but I caused enough laughter and discussion such that someone went on, guys, can we do something about this?
They are rethinking the current practice.
But if I went out and said, what's wrong with Malaysian immigration? It would not result in a
because one of the
change.
concepts, very powerful concepts he talks about in the book, is rethinking about conflicts. He says people always look at it and they say when there's a conflict, it's about something. Barack Obama calls it a contest of ideas. I want to raise the minimum wages, and the other Republican says reduce it. And in Malaysia, we say we want more foreign workers, less foreign workers, whatever. It's a contest of ideas. It's always about an idea or a task. But unfortunately, the conflict degenerates into a relationship conflict. So task conflict versus relationship conflict. So how do you make sure you deal with the conflict without that becoming a relationship conflict? So one thing I think we just heard from Harith is, can you not take it too serious? Just take it very objectively. But how do we take it very objectively? And how do we teach our children to take it objectively? So how can we rethink conflicts in the Malaysian culture?
I think reflection is one of the most important. To reflect, that is one. And at the same time as well, if we were to admit certain things that we are not correct, you say probably I have some way of looking at things. This is my way of thinking. But in my heart, probably I would ask, this may not be totally correct, because there could be some flaws to my thinking, my way of thinking. But do I take it positively in the sense that probably if I admit this may not be totally correct, that I would be able to learn from someone else. You will be able to learn from another person, which is very important. And also, as you said just now, Tansi, most of the time, if you become a preacher, you are busy about wanting to defend your idea. Very busy about wanting to defend your idea. And if you are a judge or whatever it is they say, that you are busy about rationalizing, this is the correct thinking. I think we are too engrossed about wanting to say, I'm always correct. We don't respect other people's views. For example, just like what happened when the new government took over, in the social media, a few of them, because I make one comment. I did just to say, great that now we have a new government. I think all of us should support. Don't have some back thinking, because this is our country. So a few of them attacked me in the sense that, no, this is not the right government. So I said, why can't we actually just sit down for a while? Will this help us if we are not supporting certain ideas or we're not criticizing certain ideas? So, Tan Sri, I would say like this, when we are in an argument, we do have a lot of arguments. I argue a lot even with my husband. At the end of it, my husband will say, your mom will still be correct at the end of it because she was a teacher. She would come out. I said, not necessarily, because I might feel inside my heart that these things are not correct, so I would apologize. It's okay. It's okay for me to be, to have everything that I want. Tan Sri, my journey of life, I like to just relate, the last 2-3 years. We have been busy, Harith, do so many things. And the last 2-3 years, I've gone into a little bit more into spiritualism, into reading the Quran, which I like to spend certain time of the day, the hours of the day. But my children, my husband will say, you spend 5 hours a day either reading the Quran, doing the zikir, or you do the tahajjud. It is not really comfortable, for you because you don't get enough sleep. I said, no, I beg to differ. Because for me, spiritually, I'm uplifted. I have all the energy. But to you, you find it very tiring, Harith. And I said, and I learn a lot. And I become a better person. And I become more tolerant.
Because you are kind of
Yes.
expanding your
Expanding,
knowledge.
yes, my knowledge and my thought as well. So all this while I always think that I'm correct. Then I realized, oh my goodness, actually I was not correct. And I like this journey of mine, but tell me when I'm not correct. It is fine, Tansi, but I think it's a personal experience that I have.
Harith?
Well, I understand what you're saying. When I play a 5-hour game of golf, my wife says, "You must be very tired." I'm tired, but I'm uplifted by the
Yeah.
game, the experience,
Yes.
the zen of the moment.
You were happy. You were
I was
happy.
happy.
Yes.
I think
But
the
so
moment
hot, the
is
sun out there, you're sweating like mad. Yeah, but I'm happy.
the zen of the moment. I think that's
Zen of
most
the moment.
important. It's interesting. He says in one of these areas, the joy of being wrong. I don't have to be right all the time. And he says the thrill of not believing everything you think. And he says, I have a degree from Harvard. Whenever I'm wrong, the world makes a little less sense. And so he says, look, how can we create challenge networks? I think today with the millennials, they are a challenge network for ourselves. So my eldest son, when he came back from Imperial UK, he said, Dad, I have a problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, everybody seems to agree with me. Nobody wants to disagree with me. And I don't have a challenge network, I want people to disagree with me. I want to spar with them with ideas so that we can actually move forwards, So how do you think we can create a challenge network, Harith? I'm sure you do. When you prepare for your comedy shows, you have a challenge network. Is this appropriate, not appropriate? Is it funny? Is it not funny? Let me try. What do you do?
I think that comes down to other than just personality, but also training as well. Because when you talk about a challenge network, I absolutely agree with you. However, it is also human nature to surround yourself with people who agree with you. And to a certain extent, and I'm not blaming social media, social media is actually just a tool, but it has actually amplified human nature, both the good and the bad. So right now, if you understand Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, it's algorithms. So when you post something, you have 10 people going, oh, that, and then one or two going, oh, no, what are you talking about? It is human nature now that because of the platform, you can block, unfriend.
Right.
So what did you then start creating?
All the people
people around you are not challenging you.
Yeah. We're not questioning
You're
you.
not questioning you, not challenging you. And that is, and then the algorithm will show you other people who think like you and agree with you.
Right.
So you are actually cutting off your challenge network that you're talking about. But in real life, you're absolutely correct. I think the best people to surround yourself with, number one, are people who are better than you. So how can you get to the point that you actually recognize, I'm not the best, and this person is better than me, and then not believe that this person is going to take over me, but someone better than me can make me better.
That's right.
Usain Bolt would not be the craziest, fastest man in the world for years if he didn't have that number 2 and number 3 consistently trying to get faster, that he would then stay faster, if you know what I mean. So Usain Bolt does not exist as the fastest man in the world without the other 7 in the 100-meter lineup pushing him. And if they were not there, they all put down their shoes and said, not going to run anymore, his joy would not be there. Nobody challenged him. By human nature, we get into a comfort zone where, and I think a lot of I'm going to just throw this out there, a lot of our politicians get to a certain point where they surround themselves with, and I know this to be a fact, with yes people. And the moment you say, no, I don't think what you're doing is right, you get sidelined, pushed aside, whereas you may have brought to the game something for them to rethink how we're running this policy, how we're running this party, etc., etc., etc. And at a certain point, and it has been proven that it will eventually crumble, because when you do drop, you're in total shock that, how come we lost? You lost because you surrounded yourself with 20 people who are telling you constantly every day, you're going to win, you're going to win. And the person who said, if you keep doing this, you're going to lose, got sidelined. You cut off your challenge network.
Interesting, because I remember that for a long time I used to hire people who I liked rather than who were very competent because, I liked them, they seemed to agree with me. And so, yeah, very comfortable with. Then I realized, no, I need a challenge network. And I had a staff member who was always challenging me to the point that sometimes I wanted to just fire the person. And I said, just can't take it anymore. But then I realized it was making me a better person because forcing me, challenging me to rethink. And I remember in psychology, Sigmund Freud, who created the theory of personality, was an incredibly great thinker. But there were many people after him. It was Adler, it was what's the other guys who came on continuously. There were so many people who came, Otto Rank, and so many of his disciples who came, who kind of started rethinking what he said. And at one moment, Freud got very angry and called Adler, and he said, "I made a pygmy great." And Adler responded and said, "Yes, true, but a pygmy perched on the shoulders of his master can see further." So it's rethinking. So wonderful, Harith. Such a pleasure having you on the podcast. And Dato, thank you so much. We went through thinking, but from thinking, we went on to rethinking. And let's hope that we all create challenge networks in our lives so that we make this world a better place than the one that we came into. Thank you. Terima kasih. Thank you. Thank you.